Do you think today's sell-off means a damn thing?
No.
Politics irrelevant.
I do think there is some
lower rates irrelevant.
No, I don't care about rates. I do think that today's sell-off is interesting because it's the first time. I think it's the first time that the market has reacted to something that is political, I guess. And I don't think that's happened in the last year or so. I think this is the first market reaction just to get things going. Just to start things going. I think this is the first time.
And what political event do you believe it's reacting to? Do you specifically?
What spooked the markets overnight, and then it's just snowballed a little bit, is just the whole Taiwan, the comments about, Taiwan paying their fair share for defense, or just, if they don't.
The idea of U.S. doing protection money as its net foreign policy.
Yeah.
Protection fees.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, a lot of AI and chip companies depend on Taiwanese semiconductor companies to create the hardware. And I think that spooked, there's no doubt it spooked the markets, especially some of the tech stocks. But
which is why the NASDAQ's the one getting face pounded as far as you're concerned, is because of the marginal perceived insecurity in Taiwan, rhetorically.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. I think anytime that...
I mean, I would buy that. That sounds like a buying. I mean, all else equal.
It is
I'd sooner
because...
buy Taiwan than sell it.
Well, it is. I mean, it would be a buying opportunity if these stocks were on their butt, but they're not. They were in, they needed a reason to go down. Like if Taiwan Semiconductor was trading for $75 today, where it was a couple, whatever, it feels like 6 months ago. Sure. But was trading for 190, or 185.
Yeah.
So, they were so ridiculously priced that I don't necessarily think any of these stocks are cheap.
Let's assume that the tech sell-off is in relationship to the comment about the U.S. as paid mafia protector of the world, and the hell with those that don't pay us. That obviously came from the Republican side. Do you believe that the market's response is also an indication of the belief that they think that the Republicans are going to win? I mean, obviously the statistical front runner at this point is the Republican. But if the market's having a negative reaction to Republican rhetoric, it would only make sense that they're having that reaction because they think the Republican's likely to win.
The markets are saying, as of today, they are the betting favorite. If you remember, in past elections, I mean, the Republicans right now, Trump and Trump's ticket is no more of a favorite than Hillary Clinton was in 2016 at the same time.
No, of course.
And so anything can happen. And also, it's usually they peak around the convention time. Both parties will peak around convention time. So I expect that you'll see let's put it this way. It wouldn't surprise me if the lead changes 2 or 3 more times between now and election. This was a good week for the Republican Party because A, it's the convention, and 2, they survived a assassination attempt. I mean, a lot of the things that they have done to this point were, let's call them failed publicity stunts. And this time it wasn't on them. So it looks good. This was a good week for them. I don't know if they can.
And because it was a good week for them, their rhetoric around something like Taiwan carries more weight in the stock market.
Yeah, I think so, because Trump picked a vice president candidate who is very similar to him with respect to protectionist policies and things like that. And so I think that may, for people that have the same kind of hardcore philosophy, that's kind of what they wanted. So that makes the whole kind of Trump agenda more real. Doesn't mean he has a better chance of winning. It just makes it more real. And I think that, for the hardliners, that's probably a positive for them.
I mean, my interpretation, to give politics a moment of acknowledgement, just because it's of where we are on the calendar here with everything that's happening, is that the probability of tariffs, period, whether it's a Democratic Party victory or Republican Party victory, seems to be going up. For sure, it goes up with the Republicans, but even in reaction to the Republican front runner-ness, that some of that the Democratic Party rhetoric is rising. What I'm getting at is not really in a political analysis, though, but whether, in a higher tariff world, That can be better for the small caps, for instance. That can be a catalyst for the Russell because they don't have offshore exposure. That can be a negative for Apple because Apple has got a big China I mean, I won't walk you through the rhetoric.
I
I'm sure you
understand.
know it.
I don't think.
How seriously do you take it?
Not very seriously.
As a trading.
Not very seriously. I'll tell you why. Because if either of the front runners win the election, if they are actually who's in the election when it comes, they're both lame duck. Neither of them have any reason to hold to anything that they say right now, which is just posturing to me. I mean, the reality of tariffs are that they're not good for the stock market. They're not good for business. They're not good for overall trade and for growth in global economies and things like that. Tariffs are a really bad thing. I don't know why anybody thinks they're a good thing.
Not only do you not think they're a good thing, you think they're actually unlikely to happen, even if either of these current candidates or these current rhetoric.
I think they're unlikely to happen, but I also think they're a really bad thing, and I think they're bad for business on every level. It's good optics. It's good optics for somebody like Trump because that's his platform, but the optics are not reality, and there's no upside to getting into a tariff war.
Do you think there's upside to charging fees for military protection internationally? Fee for service? Like
I do not.
Mercenary kind of situation?
I do not, and I'll tell you why.
Renting out the U.S. military?
I think it's very short-sighted. This is one of the issues I have with the whole Republican agenda, is it's incredibly short-sighted. Because if you believe in a global economy like I do, which is going to come in the form of so many different forms, digitization, tokenization, everything else over the next decade, the reason that it's so important that we protect smaller countries and it's part of the cost of doing business is because we benefit 10x over them. We benefit our markets. Our markets are up and our GDP dwarfs anything else in the whole world. And the reason we've been able to have such growth is because of free trade. And if we get into a situation where we become a country that isolates itself, a country that is focused on protectionism, and we are focused on making everybody pay their fair share, which is because we make 10x of everybody else on everything.
You're saying that if you were to look at it, like you're saying, like the freebie gives you a much better yield than any fee you could ever collect.
Do you think these companies like NVIDIA and OpenAI and Microsoft would be trading where they are today if they weren't able to do business with places like Taiwan and other places like that? And the answer is not a chance in hell. These stocks would be significantly lower and our economy would be much worse. It is short-sighted and, to me, patently stupid to have that kind of approach. I mean, I'm not a politician, so what do I know? It sounds good optics-wise.
The most, yeah.
What?
No, I'm just, excuse me. Excuse me. The most relevant point you made is that nothing they say matters anyway. So I mean, whatever.
Right. It doesn't matter anyway.
Gibberish.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It matters insofar as I think that the market is lower today, personally, because I think that they're taking the rhetoric more seriously today, because that's what people do, right? And not because, and then so. I guess what I'm getting at is I feel like today's sell-off is an opportunity, but for the record highs, which we were just on. So that's kind of misguided. I'm wrong to call it an opportunity, but I don't look at today's sell-off as an indication of anything other than a reflexive reaction to lousy political rhetoric, basically.
That's fair.
And I would say not just lousy political rhetoric from the Republicans, but from the Democrats too, who I think are becoming more absurd as they try to preserve their, obviously, I mean, I don't see how the Democrats survive their convention, honestly, unless they just don't have the president talk the whole time.
Well, the Democrats have a bunch of issues. They have a lot of issues. Number one, they've got to deal with Biden, which is turning into the nightmare that they.
Did you see yesterday? I don't mean to laugh, man, but when he said that they made a rule to make sure that rents don't go up by $55, like, and every time he opens his mouth, it's some like, it's It's a non-functioning community. It does the processor. He's an old man. The processing speed is down. The listening and speaking and comprehensive skills are very low. It happens to lots of people as they get older.
I understand.
I'm just saying, you know what's going on.
Yeah, there's a Biden problem for sure. There's also a reaching problem because they're not used to. They didn't think that their whole game plan thrown on its head, and they're in trouble now. So they're reaching. Usually, you get exposed. Like when you're in trouble, it exposes all your weaknesses. What's happening now is they're being exposed, and they've done a really bad job of handling the situation. They've done a really bad job of doing damage control. Like they've managed to make their positions worse than they were, to start with. They're essentially imploding, and that's a really bad situation. But the good part is they're imploding early enough in the process. Their competitors not very bright. So you've got, on the one hand, you've got you're imploding, but the other side will implode themselves because that's what they do.
And you have time to sort of to come up with for another pass at the castle.
Sure.
You got to mount another assault.
Again, it goes back to what we talked about last week. I think this is one of the disturbing part of the whole thing is that this is what our choices are. I'm not going to get into that same discussion we had last week, but that's the most disturbing part of watching this process play out. And now I haven't watched 1 minute of the Republican convention, and I will not, and I won't watch any of the I just can't watch either one. I can't stand conventions.
Who can watch that shit? Excuse my language.
I can't. I
couldn't imagine. Let's say today's the first day that there's any political reaction in the financial markets because the Biden problem's not going away. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
And as a result, it's creating sort of idiotic and more bizarre policy suggestions from the left. At the same time, the Republicans are idiots, are highly fond of themselves at the moment. So they're like a confident idiot. The market, I guess what I'm getting at is you could make a case that the market between now and November is going to get kicked around. For all of our talk about how the market doesn't care and the market doesn't care and the market doesn't care, if today means anything, it means that if people come to terms with the fact that Biden is worse, not better, and the Republicans are stupider than you think, not smarter, then it's basically worse than you think across the board.
It's really fascinating.
Would you put on a short position in anything? I guess it doesn't matter. It's a stupid question for you because you're already short NASDAQ, S&P anyway on valuation and normalization and all that jazz. So it doesn't really matter. It would just help you out along the way. If you were to look at your trading positions, though, right now, when you look at something like the Russell NASDAQ convergence, which gets sort of swept up in a little bit of this one way or the other. When it starts to finally work, do you manage your position in such a way that you either sell some or buy more? I guess my question is going to the first part of today's discussion is how do you deal with momentum when something does start to work that hasn't been working? Meaning let it ride, get bigger into the momentum like a Vecchio kind of concept, or start to lighten up and sort of reduce your risk because you've been getting kicked around for 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, I'm not going to lighten up. I've been short. I've suffered because of it. I'm going to ride this out a little bit longer for sure. I'm waiting for a moment where the only place I will lighten up is when I feel like we've capitulated, and that's completely subjective. At some point I will lighten up. I'll nibble, buy some stuff in here and there, but for the most part, I'm waiting for what I think is kind of like more of a washout. I do not consider today's tape action a washout by any stretch.
Do you ever get bigger when something starts to work on the momentum side?
In theory, I would love to, but it's really, really hard. Really hard.
Because you're paying a higher price to get bigger, like the unit cost of getting bigger means you're paying more per unit by definition.
It is very hard to sell into weakness. It's easy to sell into strength. It's almost impossible to sell into weakness.
What about to buy into strength?
To buy into strength is crazy hard. for me.
I mean, I think it's really hard.
It's really hard.
Vecchio talks about it all the time. These guys are talking about this jazz all the time.
Yeah, but he's a rookie. He's a kid. This is like, it's not something that anybody can really do. I've been around traders kind of my whole career, and this is not something that anybody does very effectively at all, which is sell into weakness and buy into strength.
Basically for the obvious reason.
Of course, it's because it's virtually impossible. The only people that can, there are people that are trend traders, and they can do that. But for me and for most of us that have been trained around kind of the, anti-trend type of traders, contrarians, it is seriously impossible.
So you would not get shorter of the NASDAQ on a day like today. And you may not cover your short.
I would. Today, I'm not covering my shorts in the NASDAQ, but I'm not getting shorter. Now, if we rally tomorrow.
And you wouldn't get longer the Russell coming through this rally by the same measure.
Nope, not at all. But if we rally tomorrow, I will sell the NASDAQ. Like if we rally up tonight. Yes. If the NASDAQ closes down 500 today, and tonight they're up 30, I'll sell them. But I won't. But I'm not going to sell them right now. If it closes down 600 and then they open up 30, I'll sell them. Or 700, but I'm not going to sell them now. I've made my bed for today.